Un nain unique from Amérique. Voici Matt Dillon, qui fait le mauvais garçon dans Drugstore Cowboy. Pour le moment et pour ses fans, le beau gosse se cherche des crosses, belle gueule, interroge grosse tête, auto-interview lunettes.
Hello, Matt. We'd like to start off by asking you some very stupid questions that you probably had to answer time and time again. First question I'd like to ask you, does it bore you to promote one of your films? If the film's interesting enough to talk about, then it's worth doing it. Do you think that perfect beauties are sexy? I'm a guy who likes imperfect beauty myself, but I don't know, there's some really great beauties that are beautiful women that are perfect. I think if anything's perfect, then it's, I like imperfect beauty. You've received a lot of fan letters, a lot of fan mail over the years, and is it difficult to keep your mind on acting when you have all these other distractions in your career? It's a stupid question, because I don't think I've never been. It's never been anything but acting to me, you know. What did you get from studying at Lee Strasberg Institute? Well, you know, it was good to go to acting school, you know, but I don't think anybody can teach you how to act. I don't think you can be taught how to act. I think it's something that you learn from experience. Matt Dillon, who is Bob Hughes? Well, the first line I have in the movie, I say, I was once a shameless, full-time dope fiend. And that pretty much says it about Bob Hughes. He's basically a kind of obsessive, I think slightly complicated, but his desires are very simple. You know? He's a drug addict, and that's all he really, you know, lives and breathes for. His next fix, his next drugs, where he's gonna get his next high. And I think basically that's what he is. In preparing for Drugstore Cowboy, you did a lot of research. You talked to addicts, recovering addicts, and people. And you sort of got very into the character. Did you actually inject water into your veins? I did a lot of, you know, things for the film that, you know, that I thought were necessary. That, you know, not necessarily that didn't end up in the film, but it was good for me to do that. Like, you know, a lot of the research that I did for the film. You know, talking to addicts and stuff like that. So I went out and I bought a set of works on the street with this one addict just to go through the routine. But I did that more as a thing that I wanted to do for myself. It wasn't anything that anybody asked me to do. And we did it in one scene, and it actually isn't even in the film anymore. Because when I saw it, actually, I did cringe a little bit. It's something strange to see yourself inject, you know, shoot up and scream. So Matt, tell me, you did this film, you got this film, Drugstore Cowboy, you did it, and you did some fine work in it. I'm not going to argue with you about that. But how did you feel? Do you feel the film is going to be slightly controversial? Why would that make it controversial? I think the reason he gives up is, yeah, he gets worn out. You know, it finally catches up to him. And I think he gives up in some ways out of just, you know, he can't do it anymore. It's just too much for him. You know, life has worn him down. It is controversial, yes, it's fair. I think it is slightly controversial. But we felt like when we were doing the film, the most important thing was to make it real, make it honest. And if you do that, everything will take care of itself. So you don't have to worry about preaching to your audience or anything like that. Except for pot, some weed, downers and stuff like that. Did you ever do drugs? Did you meddle? Did you dabble with drugs at all, Matt? The usual stuff, you know, growing up. I mean, it wasn't, you know, it never was a problem. I was never a user, really. But, you know, the usual kind of, I hate to use the word experimenting because it always sounds so phony, experimenting. But, you know, I'm more of a, I guess, a sort of recreational, I guess. But it was never a problem. I never used that much. No. Do you think that the film Drugstore Cowboy will glamorize drugs in any way? Do you think it'll, in any way, do you think it will have the opposite effect? Do you think it's an anti-drug film? Or... Matt, how do you feel about it? I don't think it glamorizes drug addiction at all. In fact, I think quite the contrary. You know, the guy who wrote the book is serving, like, he served like most of his life in jail because of his involvement with drugs. I don't think he would write a book that would glamorize drugs. But more than that, I don't think the film does. I think it's honest enough to show that people are seduced into the life of taking drugs, and it doesn't pretend that it's altogether just a miserable experience. I think it's kind of honest in that way, and it shows that people actually do enjoy it, you know. Because I don't think you can show the agony and the pain of doing drugs without showing the pleasure and the seduction. I understand Gus Van Sant is an advocate for legalization of drugs. Is this something that's true, do you know? And in some ways it could make sense. I don't pretend to have all the answers, you know, but I think, hey, listen, it's a strong possibility you'd have a lot less crime, you know, violent crime, at least in America, from drugs. When you met Madame Mitterrand, I understand that you two were you had quite a thing, you had a relationship. It was quite played up in the media that the two of you were seen together. Is there any truth in that? I mean, I understand that the two of you actually became quite close, spent several evenings, just sort of squired around town. Is there any fact in that? Is there any fact in the fact that you and Miss Mitterrand had a special, unique type of relationship? She was there. That was it. We never. I think we maybe met. Maybe we shook hands. We never met.
Et pour être sûr de ne rien rater de Inarditube, abonnez-vous et mettez un pouce bleu.